look at the races in United Arab Emirates. We started as a Dubai Tour for 5 years and then Abu Dhabi Tour for 4 years. So managing these two big races together to come up with the UAE Tour, that shows the world and that cycling is improving in our region and especially in United Arab Emirates. So we are expecting a very nice challenge of 7 days race.
Bueno, yo creo que es una versión muy bonita. El haber juntado Abu Dhabi y Dubai es una carrera que da una carrera más atractiva, con más días de competición, 7 días, con 2 llegadas en alto y uno en un repecho. O sea que creo que es una carrera muy equilibrada.
There's a team time trial in the Tour de France this year, so that's mainly why I'm here, is to come and do a team time trial with Trek Segafredo, because they're kind of limited to be doing team time trials in racing.
La tappa 2 è uno sprint che abbiamo visto anche l'anno scorso, è cambiato solo gli ultimi 500 metri. L'ultima tappa, la tappa 7, è quella che ho vinto lo scorso anno al Dubai Tour, quindi anche quella la conosciamo già. Poi c'è la classica tappa sempre del Dubai Tour di Attadam e poi un nuovo sprint.
La segunda subida, la sexta etapa, va a marcar muchísimo el viento porque no tiene mucho porcentaje, aunque es muy largo, pero al no tener mucho porcentaje, el viento de cara o de culo va a marcar mucho la subida.
I'm happy to be here again. Last year it didn't work out, but the year before was third, so can go either way, I guess.
Noi prima avevamo Dubai e Abu Dhabi, in realtà qui sono coinvolti tutti gli Emirati, anche se poi operativamente alcuni degli sport council principali Emirati sono i principali player, però in realtà è la prima gara degli Emirati Arabi Uniti, non è proprio una fusione.
Stage 1 of the 7 at the first ever UAE Tour looks like this. It's a team time trial, and it's the first ever team time trial ridden in the Emirates. So 1,082 kilometres from start to finish. This is the 4th team off the ramp. Mitchelton Scott on the 16-kilometre time trial course. Out on a holiday island, a brand new holiday island, on a brand new bike path. 15.8 kilometres to go for Mitchelton Scott. We've got a former Mitchelton Scott rider alongside me to talk us through this team time trial. A man who's won more team time trials than most riders along the way. A specialist in this discipline. Hello to Simon Gerrans.
Hello Rob. Well, I'm not exactly sure if I'm a specialist in this discipline. However, I was definitely part of some very specialist teams and enjoyed some great results throughout my career in teams time trials, notably with Mitchelton Scott, formerly Orica Green Edge and Green Edge prior to that, which were and still are a sort of world-class teams time trial team.
Here's UAE Emirates. Of course, we talked yesterday when we were watching Algarve about exactly the changes they've made in the back room. The team they've brought here is a very interesting one for both GC sprints. They've got Fernando Gaviria and Alexander Kristoff for the sprints, Rui Costa, Dan Martin, Diego Ulisi for other stages in the overall. How are they going to fare in the time trial?
Well, as a time trial, I think this will be a team that are really limiting their losses in big aspirations for the overall. With Dan Martin and Rui Costa in that lineup, and Rui Costa being a former winner here, obviously this is the home team, so they're going to have a lot of pressure going into this week of racing.
7 riders still together. There are 7-man teams here, and if you're looking for the time in the team time trial, it's the 4th rider across the line where the time is taken here.
Interestingly here, I think we're coming up to the time check, which is a sort of midway through the stage. And from what I understand, actually no, these guys have just started, but from 10 kilometres to go is the time check. And I think on this course, the wind is going to be blowing mostly from the north, which is going to give them a lot of headwind in the first part of the course. So the time check at the halfway point will be a very good indication to where the finish places will lie.
Let's have a look at the finish for the first time. This was the first team to start, one of two professional continental level or second division teams at the start here. Novo Nordisk were the second team to start, the team who are changing diabetes. This is Gazprom Rosfellow from Russia. They've still got 5 riders together as they come to the line. Our first chance to look at the first few metres and the first time to be taken. There it is, 17:46 and an average speed of 54 kilometres per hour.
54 kilometres an hour is a fast team's time trial, so we can see these guys have set the first benchmark of the day, and a 54 kilometre hour average on obviously a pancake flat course is going to be a fast day, particularly for the big favourites of the day like Mitchelton Scott.
Well, Mitchelton Scott, who have brought a team here that isn't really focused on GC, it's more about this sort of thing and the sprints as well. They've got, of course, Michael Albazzini, Jack Bauer, Sam Bewley, Brent Buchwalter, who was riding with you last year as well on BMC, Scabo Grumai, their new signing from Trek Segafredo, as well as Luca Mezgets and Miles Scottson.
I think Luca Mezgets is going to be their main guy in this roster for the sprint stages. As you mentioned, they have a good all-round team. Probably no big favourites for the overall. Albazzini could be a real contender on the stage 3 at Rotterdam. Yeah, a good overall strong squad here for Mitchelton Scott.
Well, there's Albazzini, on his 38th year, I believe.
Yeah, Elba's tried and tested in most parts of the season. The Swiss specialist, being a Swiss rider, he really focused every year on the Tour de Romandie, Tour de Suisse, where you can see by his Palmars that he's got the majority of his results.
Into the final minute before EF Education First begin. Now, they were very good in a team time trial the other week in Colombia without the proper TT equipment. They've had a training camp, I believe, up in Girona over the last week, and this is the team that they line up. They have James Whelan, Julius Vondenberg, who's a brand new signing in his first year as a pro, TJ Van Garderen, who's been good at this at BMC Racing, Sean Bennett, the man from the US, Simon Clark, the former Orica rider, Dan McClay, the British sprinter, and Sacha Modolo from Italy. What can they do here?
Well, another very complete squad. I think you can look at TJ Van Garderen for an overall position. Simon Clark's in good form with a good result at Tour de Provence last week. And then you've got Modolo and McClay for the sprint, so a very, very complete squad.
Oh, this team, back when they were Garmin, were very, very good at this discipline too.
I think the fact that they're just off the back of a team's training camp, they would have been working on their team's time trial and taking advantage of the fact the whole team was together last week there in Girona. So I think they could do quite a good performance today as well.
Well, of course, having been in plenty of winning team time trial teams, what is the secret? Is it practice? Is it equipment? Is it ability?
It's a real combination of all of those things, but funnily enough, the practicing is the key, getting that technique just right. It's really playing to the strengths of your strongest riders in the team. That's why you'll see a team with the likes of Bahrain Merida with Rowan Dennis. You should expect to see Rowan Dennis pulling the majority of the time with that team on the front. So it's the stronger riders pulling longer turns, and the shorter and the less stronger riders basically keeping the pace, getting through and off and out the way quickly, and letting the strong riders get back to the front again.
Well, this week we've taken bits from the old Dubai and Abu Dhabi races to create a more complete and slightly longer stage race. Not too long time in the saddle today, although it is a longish day. Turn up, warm up, perform, and of course cool down as well. I guess it's a different rhythm to the day as well than a random road stage, or even an individual time trial where you're hanging around the bus all day watching your mates as well.
Well, it is most definitely a long stage. Most of these guys will have done a pre-start this morning, so they'll get on their bikes first thing in the morning before they have breakfast, do a bit of a warm-up to get their muscles warmed up and get everything moving for the day. Then they'll have something to eat 3 to 4 hours before the stage start. Then they'll arrive at the stage start maybe an hour and a half beforehand in order to do another good warm-up before this short, intense event. Following the event, it's another warm down, so you're in and out of your bike and on and off your bike several times on a team's time trial day.
Top time at 10 kilometres in for UAE Team Emirates. It's been a good start with the average speed into the wind at 53 kilometres per hour, and as you're explaining before, Simon, you'd expect them to go a little quicker in the second half maybe.
Yeah, most definitely. I think with the majority of the headwind coming in the first half of this circuit, as they turn at around 10 kilometres around 10 kilometres in here, they'll turn into a bit of a crosswind and then a mostly tailwind finish. So we'll see the teams reduce quite significantly as the riders peel off and do one final hard turn, leaving ultimately 4 riders to cross the line with the fastest possible time.
Fernando Gaviria there taking a drink, taking too long to put it back in its holster and decides to get away.
Yeah, these aerodynamic drink bottles are quite difficult often to get back in after you've taken a drink. So you'll see guys on a short time trial like this, they might take a drink bottle with only a sip of sort of water or sports drink in there. They'll take a little sip at one point, maybe midway through, and then they'll toss the drink bottle just because it's quicker than putting it back into their bottle cage, basically.
Team Novo Nordisk, the team that is raising awareness about diabetes. They take their message of changing diabetes around the world, and on a sporting sense, they get better and better every year.
I think this is the team that we're going to expect to see attacking every day this week, without a big favourite in their team, and without sort of a key sprinter or a main GC rider. They're going to take their opportunity of spreading that message, that important message, by getting in breakaways every day.
Well, they're going to be the slowest time today, I'm pretty sure, unless there's some sort of incident or accident. But you would have expected that with the equipment and, of course, the financial means at their disposal, as well as the ability. And it's an 18:35. Slowest time so far by quite a distance.
Yeah, you can just see that the difference that these guys of their bikes.
Watching the first stage of UAE Tour. And we're with UAE Emirates, home team. Strangely enough, they haven't selected their Emirati time trial champion for this race. The only Emirati rider on the roster who retained his time trial championship hasn't been given a place in the team. It's a hard school at UAE Emirates. They've got a good team though here, a really good team. Likes of Dan Martin and Diego Lisi as we go back to the start ramp. At its team dimension data with Bernie Eisel, Louis Meintjes, Mark Cavendish on the far right hand side. You imagine that Cavendish is the man to start here.
Yeah, we can see that the Cavendish is on the far right of your screen there. He'll be the starter of this team as they'll fan out at the beginning here. They'll quickly drop into alignment as Cav will probably take him for the first sort of around 400 metres of the stage.
10 seconds.
It's a team that's very much centred around the sprint opportunities for Mark Cavendish this week. They get their 10-second count, team dimension data, ready to go.
And there they go, team dimension data.
These guys freshly on their new BMC equipment. I can see that they've maintained the Envy wheels. They're sponsored from last year, so these guys, yeah, they'll be very happy with their new equipment selections. The Assos skin suits, that's all top stuff.
Well, Cavendish, who was in a team time trial that he first wore the Giro d'Italia leaders jersey 2009 on Lido di Venezia, as Cavendish peels off.
And I think he's dropping onto the wheel there of his trusted captain on the road, Bernie Eisel.
Bernie Eisel, who we had the luxury of having along with us at the Tour de France on Eurosport last year. 15 kilometres to go for them. It's a 16.3 kilometre course today, all around Al Hadriat Island, brand new holiday island, and this is a brand new bike path.
You have Mitchelton Scott 11 minutes into their effort, still complete. I think there's 7 riders still there in the lineup. 6 kilometres to go, and it will be pretty soon we'll start to see these guys peel off one by one.
And there's Alexander Kristoff. Goodbye. Still all bandaged up after his crash in Oman last week. Get the feeling that they're almost, I think it's the last kilometre now.
It'll be an interesting dynamic this week with Kristoff and Gaviria. I think potentially racing for the first time as teammates. How it will work with their sprint, who will be leading out who. I think Kristoff has already announced in the press that Gaviria is probably the quickest of the two of them, so he'll be delivering a Gaviria in these sprint stages, and then maybe focusing more again on the classics this year.
It's interesting to see how that dynamic works. If they're both happy and if they're both winning, I imagine that there's not so much of a problem. But if one doesn't finish off the job when the others led them out, and the tensions might start to rise.
Yeah, it could create an interesting dynamic, and in this team we can see they've got a big lineup of their leaders from Team UAE Emirates, with Dan Martin, Ulysses, Costa, and obviously the 2 sprinters with Kristoff and Gaviria.
And Rui Costa, former winner of the Abu Dhabi Tour, he's right at the back there, gritting his teeth trying to hold on as Fernando Gaviria drives for the line. 17:46 the quickest time so far, and that's about to be beaten by 20 seconds. 21 in fact ahead for UAE Team Emirates, with an average speed up above 55 kilometres per hour.
I don't think they would have gone into this stage with massive expectations, so I think they would be fairly pleased with this ride. Anywhere inside sort of a top 10, top sort of 7 finish, I think they'll be pretty content with.
Well, there are 20 teams riding this race. That's all 18 World Tour teams, plus the 2 invited teams that we've seen already, Gazprom and Novo Nordisk. And we're back with Mitchelton Scott.
Still complete with 7 riders there. Is that coming into the one of the final bends, leading into the finish? Or still 4.6 kilometres to go?
4.6 k's back towards the finish from here. You can see that the wind is blowing. Those little ticker tapes holding up the inflatables. And that'll be something I think that sports directors and everybody in the team in their preparation will have studied greatly, the wind and the prospect of the wind to affect not just today's stage but every stage this week.
Well, I think in this area traditionally, as you can see, it's very flat on these flatter days and very open. There's not a lot of protection from the wind out there, so there'll be some very, I imagine, nervous moments in this stage race, particularly for the GC riders. There's a lot of great climbers in this race that can potentially lose out on the windier stages. What we don't see in the lineup of the UAE Tour is many classics specialists. I think a lot of the guys are probably staying in Europe or back to Europe after the Tour of Oman to get ready for opening weekend. That's coming up next weekend. So the lineup here is a lot of good GC riders, quite a few of the Ardennes riders as well, but not many that will target the Flemish Classics.
By this time next week, we'll have already had the finish of Omloop het Nieuwsblad, the first big semi-classic of the year, the opening day that brings thousands of people onto the road in Belgium. And of course, its new finale on the Muur en Bosberg, as we see Piet Keniuk, Sam Bennett, and all the rest of Bora Hansgrohe, the German team. Davide Formolo should be leading their overall aspirations with the likes of Emmanuel Buchmann and Piet Keniuk. I guess with those guys, it's who's feeling the best. We'll see. Eric Bashka leading out Sam Bennett, and Schachmann, also a man who will be looked towards maybe 1 week stage races in the next couple of years as he develops. Big signing from what was Quickstep, now to Koenig. Bora Hansgrohe have made a big thing of having all the major German new talent under their roof.
And they have quite a formidable lineup of sprinters across the roster in Bora Hansgrohe. I think Sam Bennett will be taking every opportunity he can for the leadership here on these sprint stages this week as well.
Already a stage winner in Argentina at the Vuelta San Juan was Sam Bennett. There's Davide Formolo. He's ready to get things going. There's Emmanuel Buchmann at the back, already a winner in Mallorca this year. I think it was the Trofeo Andrach he won. And a man who's been told that he will be given the opportunity to ride general classification at the Tour de France this year.
Well, it's a fantastic opportunity for him. Obviously, I think the team will be focused around Peter Sagan and winning another green jersey. But if he's able to slot into that Tour de France team, probably not with a lot of support, but the opportunity to ride his own GC race and profit from the team to have a run Sagan, that's a fantastic opportunity for a young rider.
Peter Sagan currently at altitude, by the way, in Sierra Nevada in Spain. I wonder if he was along the side of the road yesterday as the Vuelta a Andalucía buzzed past. Simon Yates victorious. It would have been a nice downhill ride to watch the action, but a big uphill one back up to the hotel.
Yeah, one of the I guess the least advantageous things of doing an altitude training camp on a summit like Sierra Nevada. It's the ride home every day back up to altitude. But yeah, that's what makes the training so difficult often in those locations.
You can hear the wind blowing as Bora Hansgrohe set off.
It's an interesting circuit, this one. I think the majority of the difficult sections are in the first part, with a couple of tight corners and the majority of the headwind, and then obviously a fast finish for the second half.
Talking of finishes, we're about to see Mitchelton Scott complete their time around. 4 riders left, and they've got to keep all 4 together. Time to beat is 17:25, set by UAE team member at Scabo Gramai there in second place. The new signing just desperate to hold the wheel. Looks as though they're all together as they come into the final few metres. Gramai it is who's going to try and come across first. And it's just going to be the lead. 4 seconds quicker. And that average speed creeping up.
Yeah, ever so slightly that average speed's keeping up, but I would have thought, I would have anticipated Mitchelton Scott probably taking a little bit more time over the previous best time, because I'm not sure how this is going to fare them for the stage result today.
And there was Mesgetz at the front, Albazini at the back, and Brent Bookwalter in that lineup as well to finish. As we're back with Mr. Cavendish, 1-2-1. Bernie Eisel in front of him, 1-2-2. And Dimension Data. Of course, they've got opportunities going uphill this week as well. New signing Roman Kreuziger is set to be going very well. And Louis Meintjes.
This is a team that's done a lot of recruiting for this season. The likes of Kreuziger, Valgren, Gasparotto, just to mention a couple. They've sort of done a lot of recruitment, a lot of changes going in Team Dimension Data. So it'll be an exciting season for them, and I think the focus for them this year is going to be on just probably more consistency, getting more results more consistently all year long as they sort of develop this team, and focus on getting sort of more World Tour points as the systems are constantly evolving and the rankings constantly evolving. Those points are becoming more and more critical.
Yeah, World Tour, next round of World Tour licence is up for grabs pretty soon as well. Of course, they're trying to make it every 3 years at the moment where things change. Again, it's not easy to understand for everybody, and it's not a uniform system, and it seems to change with every UCI presidential election.
Yeah, it's something that's very difficult to keep track of. Even being sort of involved in the sport, you lose track of how the ranking systems come and go, but they are very important. So it's something the general managers of each team pay very close attention to.
General managers at Katusha Albacete need more victories. Last year was a barren one. Marcel Kittel with just 2 wins, both coming at Tirreno Adriatico. He's already off the mark this year, winning in Palma the other week. But of course, that's almost a pre-season friendly nowadays, isn't it? This is where the business begins for him, up against the very best sprinters in the world. Marcel Kittel will be wanting a good start. And for GC, they'll be looking at Ilnur Zakarin this week, Katusha Albacete.
Interesting enough there, you saw their lead rider take off on the left of our screen. The first team we've seen take off in that fashion. Most riders have led from their first rider have led from the opposite side. So whether the wind is changing direction here or not, it's hard to tell.
from a technical point of view, would there be a specific reason to choose the left or the right?
Only from a wind perspective. If the wind is coming quite strong from one direction, you're going to want the rider who leads the way, starting on the side where the wind is coming from. So everyone else can drop in their slipstream, being sheltered from the wind, and drop back into line as quickly as possible. So the lead rider wants to accelerate and bring the team up to speed as quickly as possible.
Looking out over Abu Dhabi. That's the ADNOC HQ, ADNOC one of the sponsors of this race. Of course, we roughly moved from south to north in the Emirates this year before dropping south to Dubai for the final stage. Go through Khurfakan, through Sharjah as well, Ras Al Khaimah. 7 different Emirates.
And here we have EF Education first, losing one rider off the back there. That's Bennett. He's dropped off, but yeah, the rest of the team here are looking in good shape. Look to be putting in quite a good time.
And 17:21 is their time to beat. They're into the final kilometre here, and they've got to get across the line in less than a minute.
We have Simon Clark on the front, bobbing away. I think that's TJ Van Garderen in third position now, second position. Both these guys are Grand Tour stage winners in teams time trial. So yeah, I think plenty of experience in this team and some recent work together will bide for a good result today.
Well, here they come, motoring inside the final 300 metres after this turn. EF Education first have started really well this year. Again, another team with several new signings, new kit, new outlook on things, and they're coming up to the line and an opportunity to take the victory and maybe even early the lead here as well. Here they come to the line. They will take the lead. Whether it's the victory, we'll have to wait and see. It's a 17:15, 55.6 kilometres per hour and 6 seconds quicker than Mitchelton Scott.
We're seeing quite big time gaps already here today, and I think being an early season race, it's obviously there's quite a variety in how much time many of these teams have put into their team's time trial training.
And there's the illustration of that. Look at that, 6 seconds, 10, 31 and 120 to Team Novo Nordisk. 5 across the line, 15 more to come. Interesting that there's every 2 or 3 years there's more focus on a team time trial because the Tour de France will decide to include one, and this is one of those years. Stage 2, as we were looking at yesterday, is in Brussels and is a team time trial this year, so it's hugely important for all these teams.
It is hugely important, and I think every team now is taking every advantage of getting their team together and putting a big emphasis on these time trials, so when the Grand Tours come and when their big objectives come for the year, they are primed and ready to go. We heard Richie Porte mention in the pre-race interview that the big reason he's here is just to practice his team's time trialling, because it is such a vital part of Grand Tours. No one, it's a spot that's very easy to lose time for these GC favourites.
Oh, for anybody watching at home and wondering why, just imagine you're Richie Porte. You're going better than everyone else in maybe the individual time trial and up the mountains as well. But your team on stage 2 of the Tour de France puts in an awful team time trial through no fault of your own. You're already a minute and a bit behind. It's a lot of time to make up against the very best in the world, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very easy to lose time in these Grand Tours, but most difficult to get it back again. And if you're giving free time away in teams time trials, it makes for tough work for these guys in the mountain stages and in the individual time trials where they've got to get that time back.
Dimension data going 1 second slower than EF Education first at the time check, 2/3 of the way around.
I think that's a good result for Dimension Data. I don't think they have a specialist team's time trial team here by any means, but like I mentioned earlier, the key point in team's time trials is playing to the strengths of your strong riders and limiting the amount of work and exposure your weaker riders have to the front, and they must have done that quite well.
Bad news for Agir de Zella Mondial yesterday as it was Pierre Latour out training, hit a pothole, resulted in a broken arm. He's already on the way back to France for an operation. But they do have Larry Warbasse, the first ever United States rider to ride for the team. And Samuel Dumoulin will be looking to do his best in the sprints. Tony Gallopin will be one to watch, I think.
Yeah, Tony Gallopin seems to be showing some good early season form. He had a good result there in France last week. I think he was third in the Tour de Provence. Strong all-round rider, fantastic guy, very well liked and respected in the bunch. So it'd be good to see Gallopin step up and get a good result here. And I think he's leading the team off.
I'll tell you what, it was a good result last week, given the fact that he was on antibiotics for that race as well at Tour de Provence. He was suffering through illness, suffered through and ended up on the podium. Really, really good result.
Well, that is a good result under those circumstances. I hope he hasn't digged sort of too deep to get that result, because if you're a little bit sick and you're pushing too hard early season when there is a lot of sickness around, it might have used up a few of the reserves that he'll be relying on come sort of Paris-Nice in a couple of weeks' time. That I'm sure will be a big objective for Tony and Agent des Alpes Mondial.
Paris-Nice should be, given his characteristics, a big race for Tony Galopin every year. That should be one of the big objectives for him. Of course, he's improved much in the time trial in the last few years. His debut win for Agent des Alpes Mondial about this time last year was a time trial. As we take a look at the Abu Dhabi Presidential Palace. Extravagant, as you might expect. All the racing today taking place on Al Hudriyat Island. We're watching the team time.
Cross country. In a one-off race. Anything can happen. In Nordic Ski World Championships. The 10K is live Tuesday on Eurosport 1 and Eurosport Player.
It's Abu Dhabi and it's stage 1 of the brand new UAE Tour. Well, the team on the screen at the moment from Belgium, in their red and white Lotto Soudal, will be concentrating mainly on the sprints this week with their Australian hotshot Caleb Ewan. Caleb Ewan is alongside Adam Blythe, Maxime Montfort, Adam Hansen, Sander Armé, Roger Kluge and Björg Lambrecht. Now, looking at that from a lead-out point of view, it's pretty impressive, but from a team time trial point of view?
Team trial point of view, a little bit less so, but you can see Caleb Ewan's in there, and two guys that he managed to recruit across to him, a Lotto Soudal with Roger Kluge and Adam Blythe. It'll be one of their, I see they're racing all together there in Australia, and another opportunity here for these guys to perfect their sprint train.
We'll see how they go this week. A win will be required.
And expected. I think Caleb was probably quite disappointed not to come away with a big win at the Tour Down Under or the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race. So he'll be putting plenty of pressure on himself to try and get a result here this week against what is a pretty impressive lineup of sprinters.
Big week for Adam Blythe as well, and all the best to Adam and Kelly, because I think at the end of this week twins are due.
Oh really? I wish him all the best then.
This is the view down to Abu Dhabi. You can tell that with often the case, of course, with the nature of the desert, that the visibility is sometimes reduced on those windy days. The sunglasses and the visors will be really important this week. There's a little hand on the back there from Movistar, who have previous and have form for that.
Yeah, it's a bit of a no-no when it comes to team time trialling. In the rule book, I think you'll find that you're not allowed to touch your teammates in any fashion. No pushing back on the back or anything like that.
That was Juice Mas with the hand, and Andre Amador wearing number 2. Interesting to see if the commissars have seen that and will choose to act or not. Of course, that's something we'll have to wait until this evening to find out.
Yeah, yes. You see the team fanned out to the left there, which obviously means the wind is coming more from the right in this section of the course as they turn around for the final 600 metres.
Alejandro Valverde here at the back. There's Jascha Sutil in second place at the moment. Nelson Oliveira pushing on as well.
Looks like another solid time here from Team Movistar.
They're not going to take the lead, but they're going to be very, very close to their other GC rivals, like Vincenzo Nibali at Bahrain Merida, slightly slower than them. EF Education first are going to be beaten by Movistar. And it's a 56-kilometre average, 18 seconds slower than Team Jumbo-Visma. Third place provisionally for Movistar. Well, a few swimming, the rest watching the bike riding. I know it's the winter months, but it's still warm enough to go for a swim. CCC team. In their former guise as BMC Racing, very good at this sort of thing. They will be the 4th last team off, and this team, while it includes they will be Alessandro De Marchi. Their sprinter is Jakub Mareczko this week, given a chance at the World Tour for one of the first times in his career.
I think we'll see Paddy Bevan in this team, probably putting in some good performances this week, building on his results earlier this season. He must have done a lot of work when he went back home to New Zealand in the pre-season. And this is a team that I know for a fact spend a lot of time working on their team's time trialling in their early season training camps. A couple of times a week, they'll be out there working on their technique.
And they've had, they've continued to have several winter training camps, haven't they, this winter? Down in Denia, I think, where they take most of their time during the winter to have their training camps. Back with Lotto Soudal. 103 here, closing the gap. That's Adam Hansen. 102 behind him is Adam Blythe. Sander Armey is the man in front of them. This is now Bjorg Lomberecht on the front.
Interesting to decipher what Adam Hansen was trying to indicate back to the team car. He's putting his hand out. I'm not sure if he was saying that we need to speed up or we need to slow down, but I imagine that was probably we need to speed up.
There's Caleb Ewan at the back. The way it goes this week, we've got the Special Olympics World Games Abu Dhabi stage. That's this first sprint stage, starting at Yas Island. I know the riders have been staying right next to the Yas Island. I know the riders have been staying right next to the racetrack the last couple of days. And finishing at the Abu Dhabi Breakwater, the big flag, 184 kilometres, will be the second longest stage of the week, but the longest sprint stage. Caleb Ewan, well, his race proper will start there tomorrow.
Yeah, I imagine Caleb will want to get through today without sort of going to stage to get the sort of the lactic out of his legs and to make sure he recovers as much as possible before tomorrow's stage, where the, like we said earlier, where the pressure will really start to build.
Well, there's one big flag. Not sure if it's the big... Well, there's one big flag. Not sure if it's the big flag where we finish tomorrow, but seeing as it's the breakwater, it might well be. Groupama FDJ coming back to the finish. Not going to be the stage winners today. Their time ticks beyond 17 minutes. Are they going to be in the EF Education First ballpark? If they are, then given the team they've got out there, it's not a bad result.
No, most definitely. I think they'll be fairly pleased with that result. There's no sort of standout leaders in their team. I think for the overall, even the sprint stages. So they've obviously got a good unit there working together and getting the most out of every one of their riders on today's stage.
There's the flag of the United Arab Emirates. The first time we've united the Emirates in what the organisers are calling a Middle East game changer. It's the first World Tour big stage race in the Middle East, a week-long one, and of course the World Tour stage races now have a progression. They start down under in Australia in January, come here in February, and the first European World Tour stage races will be 2 weeks today, Paris-Nice, and then later that week Tirreno-Adriatico. Trek Segafredo. Talking of Paris-Nice, we've a several-time winner here, Richie Port.
Yeah, you can see Richie tucked in here. That's not Richie, tucked in the aero position. He's coming back in the line. He's very compact, Richie, very aerodynamic, and you've drawn the short straw if you actually get Richie's position in a team, the spot behind Richie in a team's time trial, because there's not a lot of sit.
Bauke Mollema wearing 185 there. He's going to go and ride the Giro d'Italia as leader for Trek Segafredo. Richie Port might be hoping he comes out well at the other side as well and can help him in the mountains in the Tour de France, but we'll see. Of course, those things will have been talked about and have been provisionally planned, as they often are now with the way things go. Talking of planning, this team knows all about that. Team Sky, another of your former teams, third from last off. We've got Sunweb after this. Teams going out at 5-minute intervals, by the way, today. And De Koning Quickstep, reigning world champions in the discipline, the last world champions in the discipline, will be last.
You have to look at Team Sky here. They've got a very complete lineup again, probably with a big favourite in Katowski and the exciting young talent Sivakov focusing on it overall. But you look at the likes of Moscon as well, Puccio, they're in the lineup here, that are a very strong team time trialists.
One change made earlier in the week. Kenny Elisonde was flown over to the Middle East to replace Chris Froome, who didn't travel in the end. Talking of Puccio, he's the man on the left-hand side on your screen. Moscon, Italian champion, alongside him as well, just next to him. Moscon is going to ride the Giro d'Italia this year, alongside Egan Bernal. And there's Sivakov, the Franco-Russian, third from the end. Second year pro now for Pavel Sivakov. He has established, by the way, that he will be riding. Was very, very interested in claiming him. There might have been a whisper that the Italians were interested too. He's a man who's grown up around cycling through his father and spent most of his life in the Alps. And Sky are on their way.
Quickly up to speed here, you see Puccio take the lead from the beginning. Alisson, here you see Puccio take the lead from the beginning. Alisson doing what he can to hang on there at the back, and like I said, Alisson's going to be a guy that's just keeping the pace there today and leaving the likes of Moscon and Puccio do the majority of the work.
Puccio slips in at the back. Sky with just over 15k's to go.
Cross country. In a one-off race, anything can happen. In Nordic Ski World Championships. The 10K is live Tuesday on Eurosport 1 and Eurosport Player.
You're watching stage one, the team time trial stage, the ADNOC stage of seeing Lotto Soudal, one of the top World Tour sprint teams, come to the end of their opening ride. They're not going to trouble the scorers at the top of the timesheets. Ever so slightly slower than EF Education first, slower too than Bora Hansgrohe. They're behind UAE Emirates, we think, as they come to the lot. Something that we didn't expect, but it's not going to be the slowest time on the day. 45 seconds down on the current leaders, who are Jumbo-Visma.
Yeah, not a big problem, I think, for the objectives of Lotto Soudal this week. The big focus will be on the sprint stages and getting their sprint train working well. The big focus will be on the sprint stages and getting their sprint train working well together. We see Roger Klug sitting on the back there, Maxime Montfort in third position, and Caleb Ewan leading the team across the line.
Well, that's the sponsors' headquarters. That's the company ADNOC backing the stage today. Very much like most races in more economically developed countries, the model is sponsorship. We've seen it in the Tour of Britain, in the US races, Australian races, and in the Arab world as well. There's Kenny Elisond, Michał Gołasz alongside him. One of two big Polish riders. The other, of course, is the former world champion Michał Kwiatkowski. There's Gianni Moscon, Pavel Sivakov, Kwiatkowski just moving ahead of his compatriot there. And Christopher Halvorsen, who's the faster finisher in Sky Colours this week. Norwegian. Talented rider in now his second year as a professional. Here's Sunweb. Sunweb still looking for a first victory of the season with big Tom Dumoulin. And they've got a strong team for this as well, like Wilco Kelderman. Max Valscheid will be their sprinter. Young Cees Bol, who's a first-year professional. Robert Power, who's come across from Mitchelton.
Yeah, Robert Power is an exciting young talent. We'll see him. I think he's coming back here, and I think he'll be a huge asset to Tom Dumoulin come the mountain stages. They've also got Nicolas Arndt in the team there. I think he'll be their man for the sprint stages. So yeah, another very complete team lining up here in UAE Tour.
We've got one more team to start. Reigning world champions, De Koning Quickstep. Elia Viviani is the main man they're concentrating on this week. He's won 8 stages of different Arab races trading on this week. He's won 8 stages of different Arab races out here in the Middle East before. He's won the overall a couple of times at the old Dubai Tour. He's with Michael Murko, the Danish champion. Sabatini to lead him out. Devenines, young Remco Evenepoel makes...
Well, a team of this experience, it's no surprise that they've let him slot in there and in the last position and I think it's Morkov leading the team off here at the beginning, probably with Sabatini slotted in behind him and Viviani after that. So Viviani's there with probably two slotted in behind him and Viviani after that. So Viviani's there with probably 2 of his most trusted lead-out men. They've had some fantastic results together. I'm sure they continue to build on that.
Young rider in this team this week, though. There's Mikel Honoré, the young Dane who's 22 years of age. And James Knox, the young climber from the northwest of England, from Cumbria. Second professional year for him.
Yeah, it's good to see.
Professional year for him.
Yeah, it's good to see British talent sort of developing in many teams. Noxie's a great young guy. I came across him for the first time, I think, in the Tour of the Basque Country last year, which was one of his first World Tour races, and he seems to be a big talent and improving in every race.
Well, he should get a little bit of help this week as well. The best climber in that team. We'll see how it develops against the big names on one of two mountain stages, of course, coming up already on stage 3. That's the mountain stage that they've done before in Abu Dhabi Tour. That's Jebel Hafit. The penultimate stage, the last mountain stage, is a brand new mountain, Jebel Jais, which is up in the emirate of Ras Al Khaimah, right on the border with Oman. And it's one that I know that a few of the riders have taken the trouble to drive up and do a bit of a reconnaissance ride, as we're back with CCC into the final 500 metres. Let's get those clocks up. Oh, they're not going to be the quickest. Let's get those clocks up. Oh, they're not going to be the quickest. 9, pardon me. They're going to be in the ballpark amongst some of the best teams, though. It's been a decent ride by CCC.
It's a solid ride. I think we see Joey Roscoff leading the team here through. I see still spot Paddy Bevan, Demarchi still in there as well. So quite a few of their mainstay riders are still there in the finish.
Good.
Quite a few of their mainstay riders are still there in the finish.
Good enough provisionally for 4th place. A couple of seconds slower than EF Education First. At the minute in the GC stakes, it's advantage Primoz Roglic. Team Jumbo-Visma, 9 seconds ahead of Bahrain Merida. That Movistar team time keeps looking.
Yeah, with only a few teams left out on the road there, the big favourites really. Yeah, with only a few teams left out on the road there, the big favourites really still to come with Team Sky, Sunweb, Tacuni Quickstep, the proven performers in these teams' time trials. It'll be interesting to see how well that time of Jumbo-Visma lasts.
The Koenig Quickstep, still one of those teams that does training camp after training camp in Calpe. So you imagine that they are strong practicers as well and good trainers at this discipline. Elia Viviani wearing 61 there. Bottom of that number flapping in the wind. And this is the Sky Train. Moscon and Puccio being driven along at the moment by Michał Kwiatkowski.
Again, this is a team with a wealth of experience in teams time trialling, which I think is only 5 or 6 riders. So if you've got numerous riders who have competed in the World Championships, you know they've put hours and hours of team time trialling practice. Team time trialling practice together, as well as obviously all the work they do leading into the Grand Tours. As you mentioned earlier, Rob, the emphasis on teams time trials in the Tour de France these days. It's so important for a GC specialist teams as Team Sky is.
Yeah, hence the reason I think that Chris Froome was going to be here as well. Of course, said that he hasn't quite recovered enough from his exertion in Colombia, where he rode at the service of his teammates. Tom Dumoulin, a big shout of come on, come on. Likes it in Italy and feels that this year's Giro d'Italia course is much more adapted to his capabilities than that of the Tour de France. Hasn't ruled out riding the Tour de France, of course, with Nikias Arndt just behind him there. Sunweb were the penultimate team to start, by the way, so they're a little further from the finish line than Team Sky, who were just approaching the final 3 kilometres as we saw them. And this is the last team on the course. Fabio Sabatini here at the back, the Italian lead-out man. That was Evenepoel, the youngster, just being forced to close the gap. And with all the talent he's had in time trialling and in the road at junior level, this is something completely different for him now.
Yeah, certainly an exciting young talent to be dual world champion in the road race and the time trial at the junior level last year. Now he's made the jump directly to the professional level with the König Quick-Step. We haven't seen many riders do that in the past. From memory, probably Pizzato was the last to skip the under 23 category altogether, and that was probably nearly 20 years ago now.
Pippo retired this winter. Team Sunweb continue in formation. Cesbol is one of those new professionals. Dutchman wearing 173 as we're back with Sky. And they're coming up to the final 500 metres. You can see the time they have to beat on the bottom of your screen, 16:49. And they've kept 6 riders together here.
That's impressive. Impressive they've kept 6 riders together, but it's probably not the best tactic, because you want to basically use your riders up as much as possible and get 4 guys to the finish as fast as you can, aligning with the team's objectives. So the fact that they've maintained 6 riders, that means that they potentially could have sacrificed a couple of guys and done a slightly quicker time.
Well, it's going to be amongst the best times, but it's not going to be the best. Slower than Bahrain, ever so slightly quicker than Movistar. 3rd place provisionally for Team Sky, with 2 teams still to go, so they're guaranteed to be in the top 5, but still 14 seconds behind Jumbo-Visma. Work still to do. Provisional standing on your screen. Jumbo-Visma, Bahrain Merida and Team Sky, with Movistar and CCC completing the top 5, separated by 24 seconds on this brand new bike path that's about to be open to the public. Again, we look at the König Quick-Step. Just 2 teams left on the course. Elia Viviani, another man who'll be thinking about tomorrow. And they're approaching now the final 9 kilometres to König Quick-Step.
We're waiting the arrival of the König Quick-Step at the intermediate time splits.
Team Jumbo-Visma still lead with 2 teams to cross the line. Team Sunweb could be the next team to threaten them. Of course, they have the former multiple-time world individual time trial champion in Tom Dumoulin. Oh, look at that. They've just gone through the first time check with the fastest time. 11:04 at 10.1 kilometres, still with 6Ks to go.
Well, with the majority of the headwind reported in the first half of this in this team's time trial, it will be very difficult to make any time up in the second half. So the fact that Team Sunweb here have put in a good first half bodes well for the final.
Only 2 seconds though. Remember, Team Sky put in a very good first half, but it's in that second half where they lost a little bit of time. They were quicker than Movistar and Bahrain, who they finished, a good 5 to 10 seconds respectively behind at the end. You see that Bahrain really surged towards the line in the second half.
Looking forward to seeing what time the König Quick-Step put in at this intermediate time check, because obviously at this stage 2 seconds it can go either way in the second half of the course.
The Etihad Towers. Etihad meaning united in Arabic, I'm reliably informed. Some of the jerseys on show. Of course, we're going to have a sprints jersey, an overall jersey, a mountains jersey and a youth jersey. Pretty standard setup for stage races now. Even the Vuelta a España is changing tradition this year. They're going to have a youth jersey. Goodbye to the combined. I think the classification will still exist, but they finally caved in after all that pressure. Now, the König Quick-Step are in their last little headwind section here, approaching the first time check. You can hear that wind blowing into the FX microphone. Still all 7 riders you might expect.
You see Morkov sitting there in the front. I imagine plenty of experience in team pursuing with his track background as well. He'll be a big contributor to this result today.
He's just come off a mini training camp with his brother, actually, in the Balearic Islands, Jesper. Of course, Jesper will be heading to the World Track Championships, I imagine. They met up there and rode with Denyuk Stibar, Mark Cavendish, a couple of other riders as well. Had a good few days out. Now 1.5 kilometres to go for Team Sunweb.
Again, this is the point where I would expect to see riders start to peel off and have the just 4 riders finish in the front. I think one of the first guys, maybe that Nicolas Arndt there, coming back.
Here's Tom Dumoulin at the back. That might have been Cees Bol, I think, 173. Nikias Arndt on the front at the moment. Oh, look at that. So hard to hold the wheel. And the man struggling to hold the wheel. Is that Robert Power? I think it is.
That looks like Robert Power, yeah. But like I mentioned, one by one they're peeling off. I'm sure Tom Dumoulin will still be there in the final 4. He'll be their key guy for the overall this week.
Well, time to get that clock up and leave it up because they're coming into the final 500 metres now. Big ride here, 16:36 or 16:49. I'm not sure they're going to do this. It's going to be a sprint for the line, but it's going to be close. Tom Dumoulin on the left-hand side, 16:49 the time to beat. It's ticking away before their eyes there, and they're not going to do enough to take the win. And they will have to wait that little bit longer for the first victory of the season. For now, though, it's a solid second place, 7 seconds down. Team Sunweb at least having a solid enough start for Tom Dumoulin this week.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad start for Team Sunweb. Interestingly enough, they lost 5 seconds in the second half of the course, so they must have started that very strong and maybe burned a little bit too much energy into that headwind and forgo sort of 5 seconds to Team Jumbo-Visma in the second part.
And Jumbo-Visma lead by 7 seconds from Team Sunweb, with only the team on your screen able to beat any of them. One team to finish of the 20 who started, and it's De Koning Quickstep, the Belgian super team. Abu Dhabi in the background at this brand new UAE Tour for the first time. The first World Tour team time trial in the Emirates. And in a few minutes it will come to a conclusion. Jumbo-Visma have been in the hot seat for quite a while. They started in 11th out of 20th place. The wait has only 4.5 kilometres to go. Still, what have we got? 7 riders, yep, still there. Smaller figure there of Evenepoel hiding behind one of the big bodies we could see on the camera. Number 66 there, Michael Murko. Al Hadriyat Island has been a huge project to get more people on bikes. You can see it is an island that has purpose-built bike paths on it and not much else. Bit of a holiday resort at the other end. And the plan is to turn this into a resort at the other end. And the plan is to turn this into a real sports tourism area. There are going to be triathlons here, World Series coming up as well. A very specially built place, and I think the bike paths are going to be floodlit as well. Chance to get out in the night when the heat isn't as bad. Now you can see all the floodlights there already. The bridge from the island to the mainland in the distance. And De Koning Quickstep now approaching 3 kilometres to go. And there's the sign they passed, 3 Ks to the finish.
Still 1 more kilometre to go on this straight section before they swing to the right and finish in the more of a tailwind section. You see the riders are fanned out here from left to right, so the wind is obviously blowing off the ocean there, coming from the left-hand side. So this is where you're relying on your teammates to sort of hold position. The last thing you need is to sort of flicker wheels, because you see it gets larger and larger as it goes down to the line. The last guy on the wheel actually has to deviate quite a bit from his line.
Quite a surprising graphic that, if that's correct. De Koning Quickstep were in 8th place at the 10 kilometre time check. We'll just take a hold off on that until we see proof as they come into the final kilometre. But it's been fairly reliable, the timing system, all day so far. We crucially didn't see the distance in seconds from the leaders. That's why I'm not going to take it as gospel just yet.
Well, interesting enough, probably without a big GC favourite here in this team, the emphasis will be on the sprint stages. But as the current world champions, I would have expected a very competitive time today. So I'll be surprised if they're back that far.
Winning is in their DNA, isn't it? They chase stage wins, they chase wins wherever they can. It's sort of the ethos of the team. You'd be very surprised, given their ability at this, to them just to pass it up. We will see. There's Dries Stevenijns on the back. 63 Evenepoel in front of him. James Knox running 65. Approaching the kilometre to go banner. At the moment, Primož Roglič would be going into the leader's jersey as the first man to come across for Team Jumbo-Visma. Only the Koenig Quick-Step can stop the Slovenian doing that. And there's 1 kilometre to go, and there's all 7 riders still left.
All 7 riders still left there, but who have we got missing on the back there? Devinen's missing turns on the back, so I'm quite surprised that he hasn't put one last big effort in and peeled off and left his teammates to get to the line as quick as possible. He's doing his best not to lose contact.
There's Mikel Honoré, the young Dane, on the left-hand side. Spent time living in Belgium since he was 18 years of age now. Oh, and they're not going to do it. So the stage win is going to go to Team Jumbo-Visma. That timing was right. The Koenig are a little down on where we'd expect them to be with 400 metres to go. So Jumbo-Visma are going to take the stage win on stage 1 of UAE Tour. Primož Roglič, we think, is going to go into the individual lead. The top 5. Slower than CCC team. The top 5. Slower than CCC team. Added a 7th place. Who are stage winners in UAE Tour on the team time trial debut in the United Arab Emirates.
So quite big time gaps there today. I'm to have my 6th place down nearly 30 seconds off the winning time. That's placed down nearly 30 seconds off the winning time. That's the biggest gaps I've seen in a team time trial for quite some time. But I just guess it shows early season races, early season performances, emphasise who's put the work in the pre-season training camps.
So Team Jumbo-Visma with an average speed of 57.086 kilometres per hour. Winning the team time trial, and Primož Roglič alongside Laurens de Plus, Jos van Emden, Koen Bouwman on the same time. The rest at least at 7 seconds. Roglič the first leader.